speakers to make their presentation. Why hydrogen? That's a question we should ask that. I think globally there's been a tremendous pressure to transition to a clean fuel, clean energy sources, non-polluting sources. It's not that we have not had energy transitions, ever since the mankind has tried to evolve. There have been numerous energy transition, right from biomass, wood, to coal, to oil and gas, to now electricity and many other things, But this time the transition rules are different. Earlier it was a easy to use, easy to be available kind of a source, which was user friendly. That's what the mankind has actually exploited. But this time there is a force to shift to a cleaner fuel. So in that perspective, several low carbon fuels have gained importance, and there's a tremendous amount of initiative in terms of decarbonization of just not the fuel but all associated industry as well. So in this perspective, hydrogen, which is perhaps the purest of the fuel and non-polluting at all, has gained importance of that. There are of course challenges. So what I'll do is I'll just a few things which most of you may be aware. I'll just run through that. Yeah, so I think whatever you see there, that's just a why hydrogen. Hydrogen's use actually would be perhaps more beneficial when we see in terms of its derivatives, because when the challenges which hydrogen brings right now are not easy to address right now unless we have the technologies coming up and they are solved. So, but derivatives of hydrogen are the industry is used to that. They have technologies appropriate for not only storage but also transportation, like ammonia and all, and there are big commercial plants operating on that. So moving on, next slide please. When we see and compare this with other this thing, we all know that it's the from the energy density point of view, the best use of the hydrogen would be as their derivatives on that. That's there, and there's a comparison there. We are all aware of that. When it comes to demand, the next slide, there's a huge demand within the country also, as also the globally, if you see. Of course, the geopolitics of the energy sources definitely has an impact on what kind of innovations, changes happen. And hydrogen is not the isolated case. There are certain things that are happening, and I see that in certain part of the world, the kind of thrust, fast, rapid development that was taking place has a little bit slowed down on that. Nevertheless, but Europe and other countries are pretty focused on that, and they are carrying on this thing. The one of the important demand wise is all right, but then the cost is one of the areas which is a concern. We are very happy to see some of the benchmarks, contracts that we see in the market here. We would be very happy to really see that these contracts actually happen, and then we see, and then actual benchmarks are set there. So we are very eagerly watching what is all development on that. So how do you produce hydrogen? Next slide please. Number of this thing: water electrolysis, microbial electrolysis, photochemical, photocatalytic, solar thermodynamic, direct water thermolysis, biomass, lignite, coal gasification. I'll deal it with tomorrow in my session there. Pyrolysis, reforming. There are various things. The oil and gas sector, particularly the refineries, have been using hydrogen for decades, but in a different way. They are now being sort of pushed to look at how they can really make this hydrogen change to green hydrogen, cleaner fuel. So when we talk about hydrogen production, the electrolytes form one of the major component, besides the, of course, the power that is required. So if we, how do you really see what all is happening if you see, there's a latest this thing, I got it. Some of the technologies are there, how they are maturing, and what's all happening when you compare that. It's very interesting to see that. And some of the new technologies which they say is a combination of the electrolysis, normal electrolysis, as also membrane based electrolysis, a combination of that. There are several recent developments and papers, particularly from China, that they've said that these technologies are really worth commercial applications, and they are very good. So I would leave this particular slide here, which shows how these present day this thing are comparable on that. But then the ion exchange, membrane water electrolysis, that what they call it AMWE, is what the Chinese have proposed, that this is perhaps the most efficient, cost effective, and can be scaled up on that. So that's what I leave it to you on that. But there are challenges which I think needs to be addressed at the same time. For example, storage of hydrogen. We know that the hydrogen molecule is a very unique molecule. It needs special metallurgy to be stored, the conditions to store. So I think that's one thing that is challenging. We know globally there are several commercial scale projects in terms of storage also happening, as also transportation, pipelines specifically for hydrogen. And I think once they really operate for a few years, we'll know much more as to how they have behaved on that. But there are challenges. So I try to list here some of the challenges which I'm sure some of the speakers would gather besides this thing. Generation, high cost, that I think is one of the challenge, and we need to really look at the processes, dependence on the critical minerals. How do you see this is being tackled today in the global this thing, as also Indian? How do you approach hydrogen generation, whether it is local cluster usage? What is your recommendation when we talk about this thing? Storage, transportation, again a high cost, as I said. Specialized materials, metallurgy, liquefaction is again a big issue. You spend more energy. So how do you really, if you want to really use hydrogen, take it to some other place? I think the approach for usage of hydrogen would be perhaps also locally, as much as possible on that in a cluster form or something. So how do you deal with that? Application wise, I think we have right now globally, if you see, a limited infrastructure, and it requires to my mind a great amount of application in terms of drawing the standards of use of hydrogen. Global standards are still lacking. So I think these are the things that safety standards, storage standards, transportation standards, they need to be simultaneously worked on as we work on the best method of production of hydrogen on this. The energy requirement, as I said, is a huge, large. So the focus definitely is coming on how do you tackle the two major things, the power requirement and the electrolytes. The efficiency of electrolytes and all is a major issue on that. So I think it's very good that we have 3-4 presenters here from eminent institutions. They have large experience on that, and I'm sure we all will be benefited. So without taking much time, I would invite the first speaker is Dr. V. Ganpati. He is representing his director, Dr. R. Vijay. Is a Science and Technology Center at Hyderabad. May I request you to be, in terms of time, I would suggest that we'll have more interaction, maybe 10 minutes. Thank you.